ربي يا الله الله يا ربي يا الله الله يا ربي يا الله.
Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. Hello and welcome to the Health Show and a Ramadan special series here only on the Islam Channel. During the month of Ramadan, Muslims fast every day from dawn to sunset. It's a time for spiritual discipline, of deep contemplation of one's relationship with Allah. This includes extra prayer, increased charity and generosity, and intense study of the Holy Quran. And for those fasting this month, we've been guiding you on how to remain healthy throughout the month. The topics we've been focusing on so far have been eating healthily and weight loss, fasting in Ramadan, and next week we'll be looking at positive mental health. This week, though, we're discussing women's health and are looking at pregnancy, breastfeeding, menopause, and the menstrual cycle. To guide us, I'm pleased to welcome gynecologist Dr. Henna Rasool Khan. Dr. Khan specialises in reproductive and sexual health, and she'll be giving advice on how Islam gives relief for fasting women in various hormonal situations. So Ramadan, of course, is a very important time of year for all Muslims. What does it mean to you personally? How do you, what do you do during the month that's maybe different to normal, apart from fasting, of course?
Yeah, it's like just the MOT of my car or overhauling really. So same for the body. And for me personally, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, as you just mentioned very rightly, important not only time but opportunity. Because it depends whether we have taken that opportunity or not. Because obviously it's not being, you don't see anybody coming and forcing. It has been given to you. And of course, as an obligatory one. It doesn't mean that we fast only in Ramadan. Throughout the year, there are various occasions where we can do it by our own will and choice. But of course, Ramadan being obligatory, there are preparations done. For example, from now on, people have already, from the very beginning of Ramadan, they have already started doing the preps, and even before 2 months. So for me, it's just it's something to renew your faith as well as your health, I would say.
It is a bit of a mind, body and soul
exactly,
moment,
that's the
isn't
combination,
it?
Yeah.
And obviously, we're focusing today on women's health.
That's right.
And we'll go through, the different stages of women's lives and how Ramadan might affect them.
Course.
First of all, young girls, there's often a question about when fasting is a good when's a good time to start fasting. There's no particular set rule as such. When do you feel is an appropriate time for young girls to begin fasting?
Yeah, no, it's not only about my thinking. These lines have been drawn already as this gift of Ramadan has come. It has come with its rules, regulations, advice. So puberty is the line, for example, for prayers as well. But as for prayers, from the very young age, the children are involved into this. They themselves love that whole environment, getting up in the night. It's like an enjoyment for them. So young girls, like I remember from my childhood, very young age, 7 years onwards, you can say, we get involved, getting up, and then at iftar, breakfast time. But when it becomes obligatory is again the puberty time.
Now, of course, for girls, that's a particularly challenging time as they experience their first menstrual cycle and so on. What sort of advice do you give to parents and girls who are going through that very challenging time where their hormones are sort of all over the place?
All over the place. So again, then our Creator who has given us these this way of life, along with all these tips, including Ramadan, has given this flexibility and this relief from fasting and prayer to the women who are going through certain times of the hormonal differences in the body. For example, menstruation, they don't have to fast during that. And as I have gone through, because I've been working in interfaith as well for quite some time, it's quite interesting that our Christian, Jewish friends, they also have been discussing this. And for example, in Christianity, some people, they don't mind girls fasting even during menstruation because their fast is usually like a water fast. They do keep taking water, so they don't mind it.
So
but for women,
Sorry, but it's during the menstrual cycle, you're saying that, you know, obviously
That
fasting.
they don't have to fast.
They don't have to fast. So is it then advised that they fast extra at the end of Ramadan
they can
to
do
make
it
up
rest
for
of the year. Rest of the year, any time.
Okay.
Ideally, like in the next month, which is Shawwal, the next month after Ramadan, the first 5-6 days, they have been very, very rewarded. They've been declared as very rewarding by the Prophet ﷺ. So most girls, women, they try to fast during that month, the one following. You don't have to do all consecutively 6 or 7 together. You, like I have been doing, we break it during weekends or throughout the month. So there's reward as well as you make up. Some people leave it until the next year, then they just keep collecting.
But you do need to make that time
You do
up
need to. Don't
do
have to make the prayers because, again, Allah is very kind and He knows that if you have to make up 5 prayers of every day, then it's 7 5s or 25, those prayers, and then it becomes a lot of burden. So you can keep involve yourself into zikr, like remembrance of God, even while you're menstruating. You can still read Quran translation, understand, listen to nowadays everything is on phone. The girls have apps and everything. They can keep in touch with the whole environment of Ramadan. They don't have to completely cut off that, now I'm menstruating, so everything's shut. No, it's not like that.
It's just
Some
the fasting
ladies, you
element,
know,
yeah.
like middle age, they just get too enthusiastic. Oh, no, I don't want to miss my Ramadan, so I'll take the tablets. You know, the same tablets, hormonal tablets they take, it's called progesterone, which then suppresses the hormone, and then you just artificially, you can delay your menstrual cycle, your period. So they want to take that, and they come to us many times just for Hajj, and they want to delay it so that they complete the whole 30 fast, and then they don't have to fast later on.
And medically, is that okay?
Medically, yeah, once a year doesn't matter. Even, you know, the young girls who are going on holidays or honeymoon, they come to us for such tablets for 3 months or so. They can delay it for up to 3 months, doesn't matter. So now with the technology, with the science and all, that's an option as well. But the women who they don't have to feel left out, because again, they will get a chance to make up, and then they are not cut off. They are at least serving the rest of the family who are fasting. They are joining in that sense. So then, and then the whole, you know, the whole atmosphere is of Ramadan. They are listening to stuff and everything.
Let's go to the next stage of life for women, which will probably be pregnancy.
That's right.
So again, that's you know, you've got obviously 9 months of pregnancy. What do you suggest women do in that situation? Because obviously you're feeding your unborn baby and so on. What's the guidance, if you like, for
and even before pregnancy, like you just gave my introduction as well, I specialize in reproductive and sexual health. So many women come with that question as well. But again, that's very important to touch on, that in Islam during Ramadan, like once I was talking to my colleague, medical, he was of course not fasting, non-Muslim, but he's saying, oh, okay, fine. So he was asking many questions about Ramadan and about this menstrual cycle and pregnancy and sexual relationship. And when I said that even that is allowed, but not in the day, you have to be abstinent from eating, sexual relationship and all, men and women in the relationship as well. So he was just laughing and said, oh, I don't want to have sex in the daytime, for example. And I said, well, the story, how it is in Quran itself is that when the fasting ruling came, and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they found it difficult. There are many people who are newly married or in honeymoon. There are people who are in that scenario or situation. So for them, then Allah said that Allah knows that you have been feeling it, and some of you have been cutting the corners. So you are allowed during the night to have your physical relationship. And then comes the pregnancy. So again, in pregnancy, women, I would say they're really lucky that again they have been given full relief completely. That because they are, of course, they are directly involved in the process of creation alongside the Creator Himself. Very important job they are doing. So they have been given relief there, that they will need lots of minerals, lots of all sorts of vitamins and lipids and hormones and everything. But if a woman is, for example, in her 28 weeks, 32 weeks, and she feels quite well in herself, baby is growing fine and not worried, then she can decide and take a little bit of, for example, she may just fast a couple of days in a week, and she doesn't, still it's not recommended that even if she's feeling very well, she should continuously fast for, she should still just pick and choose really. and take the flexibility which has been given. We don't have to be adamant about it or worry. Yeah, many women would worry that, for example, I know some of my patients, even in my own family, there are girls, women who, for example, last year they were pregnant, this year they are breastfeeding, another year they are breastfeeding. For example, they are planning to breastfeed 2 years, which is again recommended and encouraged in Quran to breastfeed the infant for at least 24 months. Then that means that they have collected 3 years of, so 7 threes are 21, 33s are 90 fasts to make up. So then there is, some scholars give that ruling that if you have collected so many and you think you can't, then you should give, there is another way given as a flexibility and ease, because Islam is a very practical religion, close to nature, and because the Creator himself has given it, so he knows what we can and what we can't do, where can we get stuck. So they can give charity. Instead of that fast, she can pay money to feed somebody, whether here, nowadays here also we are doing so many projects in this country for homeless and hungry people, or overseas, whatever. So if too many are collected, then there is a way out for that as well, that she can spend money.
Now, we're obviously very keen on the show to talk about people's actual health and how their health can be affected by fasting.
That's right.
Do you have any advice for women who may be pregnant or breastfeeding in terms of how to break the fast and the types of foods to be eating when they're not fasting, to make sure they're really getting those nutrients? And what about various supplements and things like that? Should they only be taken
the pregnant care,
out of the
all
fast?
those things which women take for breastfeeding, which includes calcium, iron, excessive amounts of calcium, iron, vitamin D, which many of, for example, Asian ladies are already deficient in these vitamins. So there has to be a very, very well-planned health diet chart. It's not like samosas and pakoras, and so they will have to sacrifice in that sense. Rather, once they get used to that healthier side of it, which includes lots of natural, these seeds and stuff like pumpkins and rape seeds and all that sort of thing, olives and fruits, and then yogurt. It will be a mix of protein, carbohydrates. Nowadays I've done, for example, in the other health show we do in the Urdu channel, we have done a couple of times the big healthy plate, and that is available on Google very easily. People can access it, and that includes everything in the big healthy plate. All sorts of mixed diet is there, so nothing is left behind. So for sahur, the time to start the fast, and for breaking, she will have to look into that and her own supplements which she's taking for breastfeeding or for the pregnancy itself. And of course, if it's an 18 hours fast and she gets about 6 hours in between, that means there'll be at least a liter of water to be consumed during that, which may mean a lot of pressure on the bladder, and she may have to use that service a lot as well. So those are the difficulties for which this flexibility is given. So she can always take that opportunity. And it's not only just we say that, no, I feel full and I feel fine. It's the way, I think education is very important for women, that's why. And there's a lot of recommendation for women to be educated, girls and women in Islam.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
They should know about it, that there will be the deficiency of, for example, lipids, and the hormones, how they are entangled with the lipids. It's this axis of hypothalamus from brain, which affects the thyroid and then the ovaries. So how the liver will be affected, how the consumption will be affected, how the breakdown of these products will be affected, and then how the baby will be affected.
And I'd like to talk a little bit about that education, because it's absolutely crucial, for anybody in any stage of their health, that they get the right information. And one of the things that, obviously there's people around women who can help, but always seeking professional advice. It's something we're always talking about on this show, is, go to somebody who might not be in your community, but somebody who actually knows about women's health, especially during pregnancy.
That's right, yeah, which the first-hand contact person is usually midwife. Of course, at home you can say elderly or women who have been pregnant before, but luckily in this country we have these services still. The midwife, the GP, these are the first-hand, and not everybody goes to hospital for their antenatal care. most of the women whose pregnancy is going normal and fine, they just stick to the midwife and GP, that's it. But if they are going to the antenatal clinics for some reason, high blood pressure or previous history of some complications or heart disease or high blood eclampsia and things like that, or diabetes, for example, then diabetic ladies, they'll have a completely different guideline.
And we'll talk in a moment, if you don't mind, about the people on medication and women particularly on medication.
Yeah.
One of the things which is very heartening is, we were talking just before the show, that actually in a lot of areas in the UK now, the doctors, midwives and medical professionals are more aware of the needs for Islamic women in terms of fasting, in terms of their faith.
Yeah, it's getting
and therefore
better.
they have a little bit more knowledge in terms of how to guide in terms of women's health.
That's getting better because, again, as there are some areas where still the Asian community, Muslim community is quite low. So there, of course, they have to do, if somebody goes there, then that GP or midwife will have to study a bit extra to guide them. There are some, I actually have planned as well, some of my colleagues have done it. They have done workshops with their own effort and invited other doctors and midwives of other faiths. I have done it in my own department sort of thing, and a couple of my nurses, they started fasting with us. They were quite impressed with the whole way, the way it works, and upon health as well.
And the truth of it is, we know that it's just getting better and better and better in terms of the knowledge out
there. Because
the
it is available, of course.
Of different peoples. Just coming to the next stage for women's health, and then we'll talk about medication generally and women's health generally. But I'd want to come on to the menopause, and again, how that affects women, especially during Ramadan and the fasting period. What advice do you give to women going through the menopause during Ramadan?
Yeah, again, really, I would say it's such a well-designed system which our Creator has given, that menopause is a time where already a woman is going through a different stage of her life, hormonally, her whole body system. As we know that our body itself, with the breaking down of cells every 10 years, is a new body. So we live like, if 5 decades or 6 decades, we have lived in 6 bodies. But spiritual life is the same, our spirit remains the same. So menopause itself, because there are a lot of changes as the estrogen completely drops, our hormones, and then the progesterone as well. The heart, of course, gets a bit weaker compared to, because estrogen supports the heart. The skin starts getting dry. The mind, you will be talking about like mental health next week. You could touch into that. The mind itself also goes through various sorts of thought processes, and you can class them as depression or feeling a bit low. In that whole scenario, fasting plays a very, very good role. And because now she has stopped menstruating, that's part of menopause, most of them. Around 51 is the average international age of, some people can delay it to 54, 55 or earlier as well, premature menopause, but average is 51. So they can now pray continuously as well. They don't have any break from prayers. So naturally they shift more towards the spiritual side of their life now. So they're getting more chance of fasting. They are not missing any fasts now. They are getting more chance of praying, not missing that opportunity. So they are, in a sense, they are going more into a meditation phase, which if you go for treatment of menopause or counseling of menopause to other agencies or doctors or other health support as well, this is what they recommend. Something like meditation, something like concentrating or focusing and things like that, which naturally they are being provided by this Islamic system of worship and prayers.
And what about nutrition and foods?
So nutritionally
and for people who are going through the menopause, it's obviously their body's hormonally a bit all over the place.
Yeah, hormonally.
Are there any particular foods that are really good to focus on to maybe help you through that fast?
That's right. At the same time, around menopause, the body fat starts shifting differently. Women start gaining weight at that time because of the changing in the hormone and loss of the hormone, and the BMR, the basal metabolic rate itself. That's the rate at which the things are breaking and forming inside our body, whatever we eat and digest and break down. That whole process starts getting very, very slow as per the need of that time of our age. So and then you can understand that how fasting helps in that whole thing. Then it is already then. But again, sadly or unfortunately or fortunately, the samosas and pakoras, again, the fried stuff and all that does not help even in this scenario, because sometimes maybe once a week, if we are all getting together, we could just taste it, but not as a routine.
A little bit of something we like is always good, but not too much. I just want to finish off. We've only got a few more minutes, so I want to finish off about women's health generally during Ramadan, and maybe women who are undergoing various treatments, might have various health conditions which are specific to women. Do you have any advice or any thoughts about the connection between Ramadan and women's health generally?
Just as for men, really, I mean, women should not marginalize themselves that as if they are, otherwise fast would have just come for men. God could do that easily. But the fact that it has come for both the genders equally, except with certain exceptions like we just discussed, menstruation. So that means that naturally all that has already been considered and provided. So women should not feel very worried about this part of their worship. The chronic illnesses, whether it's in men or women, both are of course excluded, because in chronic illnesses they have to pay sadaqah or charity, which is very, very wise, because some other people will be benefiting from this population who is not able to fast.
I'd love to hear your final tips, especially directed towards women, about your, maybe 3 top tips for women in Ramadan.
Okay, I would say women, if you said like 3 top tips, I would say first to prepare themselves very well for that, even a couple of months before. Start taking your vitamins and your supplements a couple of months before, calcium, vitamin D, whatever. That's for your health. And your exercise, don't forget. And in Ramadan, many women, they say, oh, we'll shut the gym, we'll freeze the gym. No need. You just shift the time close to iftar, maybe a couple of hours before iftar. That's what I do. I do all my, whether it's hockey or whatever exercise I'm used to, I just do it an hour and a half or a couple of hours before that. And that's for the physical thing. And thirdly, if you are pregnant and if you are still in your menstrual cycle, you are in your reproductive age, then plan according to that, as I've just mentioned, with the list of things which will be more helpful for you. And yeah, whether you have to fast this Ramadan or not, you have to get that advice beforehand. Be prepared for that.
Fantastic advice. Thank you so much indeed. We could have talked for an hour on this subject, I know, but thank you very much indeed. So there you have it, some important and really helpful advice on looking after your health during Ramadan, especially for women. Now, we must stress that should you suffer from any medical problems whatsoever, it's always highly recommended that you contact your doctor or GP, as the health show and the Ramadan special gives you an alternative viewpoint to the health concern being discussed. I'd like to thank our expert today, Dr. Henna Rasool Khan, for coming in and onto the show. And if you'd like to find out any more about today's topic or would like to get in touch with our expert, then please do email us at healthshow@islamchannel.tv. Well, that's all we have time for the moment. Join me next week for our last show of this Ramadan series, where we're going to be looking at mental health and the benefits of fasting and how it can actually help our well-being. A must-watch, so please do tune in then. But for now, it's goodbye and we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu, Allahu, Ya Rabbi, Ya Allah. Allahu, Ya Rabbi, Ya Allah. Allahu, Allahu, Ya Rabbi, Ya Allah. Allahu, Ya Rabbi, Ya Allah.
La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadun Rasulullah.